You already gave them the map. Every time you flinched, every time you followed up too fast, every time you went quiet when a certain name was mentioned, you weren't just reacting. You were handing out intelligence. Real-time, precise intelligence about where you hurt, what you need, and exactly how to move you. And they took notes. They all did. Here is the paradox that will cost you everything if you don't understand it. The more openly you care, the less power you hold. They told you vulnerability is strength. They told you that being expressive, authentic, emotionally available, that this is the mark of a grounded human being. And maybe it is in a poem, in a therapy session, in a world that operates on good faith. But you are not living in that world. You are living in this one. And in this one, your visible emotion is a weapon, pointed at you, loaded by others. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago. He studied rulers, courts, and betrayals. And what he found, again and again, was one central law. Control belongs to the one who is least emotionally dependent. Not the strongest, not the smartest, not the most passionate, the least dependent. Because power is not about how much force you have, it is about how little leverage others have over you. There are 7 control mechanisms. The 7th will rewire how you see every relationship you have ever had. If you are not ready for this, close the video. Go back to the crowd. But if you want to know what they never taught you, stay. Phase 1. Conceal your emotions. Eliminate your weakness. Your face is a broadcast signal. Every twitch, every hesitation, every flash of irritation, it goes out. And the people around you are not passively receiving, they are recording, cataloging, building a profile of where to press and how hard to press it. The average person believes that being emotionally open creates connection. What it actually creates is a target surface. Your boss, who knows you tighten up when projects are criticized, uses that to keep you overextended. Your ex, who knows which memories still land, uses that to stay in your head rent-free. Your competitor, who knows your pride flares when challenged, uses that to push you into decisions you would never make from a cold state. This is not paranoia. This is behavioral science. Joe Navarro, former FBI agent and body language expert, spent decades documenting how nonverbal signals expose psychological vulnerabilities before a single word is spoken. Your micro-expressions, your response latency, your postural shifts, all of it speaks, often louder than your words. Julius Caesar understood this at a level most leaders never reach. In the Roman Senate, surrounded by men who feared and envied him, he trained himself to receive news, good or catastrophic, with the same expression: calm, deliberate, unreadable. It was not that he didn't feel. He felt everything. He chose nothing to show. The practical instruction is this: the next time someone delivers bad news, do not let your face collapse. When someone challenges you, do not rush to defend. When someone tests your limits, make them guess where the line is. Train your resting expression to be a closed door. What they cannot read, they cannot target. This is not performance. Fake people pretend to feel what they don't feel. Disciplined people feel deeply and choose when that feeling becomes visible. There is a blade-sharp difference. One is theater, The other is sovereignty. Your face is a tool. Use it with intention. The calm face in a storm does not signal the absence of feeling. It signals total control. And control is the only currency that never deflates. What happens when you stop giving them that signal? We will get there. But first, the deeper wound. Phase 2. Eliminate your needs. Become non-negotiable. Look at every situation in your life where you feel powerless. You will find almost every single time the same thing underneath it. Something you want from another person. Validation, attention, closure, an apology, recognition, the need to be chosen. The moment you need something from someone, you have handed them positional advantage. You have moved yourself to the lower seat at the table, because now they hold something you want, and that gives them leverage over you, whether they ever consciously use it or not. This is why people stay in relationships that drain them for years. They need to feel chosen. This is why professionals don't leave toxic jobs. They need the validation the title provides. This is why some friendships are permanently one-sided. One person is always waiting, always hoping, and the other, consciously or not, keeps them in exactly that position. Attachment theory, developed by psychologist John Bowlby and expanded across decades of research, maps this with clinical precision. Anxious attachment. The pattern where a person craves closeness but fears abandonment creates a predictable trap. The more you pursue, the more the other person withdraws. The need itself is the mechanism of your disempowerment. The Spartan warrior culture trained men not to form dependencies, not to comfort, not to approval, not to outcomes. The logic was survival. An army that needs nothing from the enemy is an army the enemy cannot negotiate with, cannot break, cannot buy. Need is the siege engine. Eliminate it, and you become a fortress without a gate. The power shift happens the moment you become genuinely willing to walk away. When you are okay if the deal falls through. When you are okay if they do not reply. Not because you don't care, because you refuse to hand anyone that kind of control over your choices. Non-attachment removes all pressure points. When you need nothing from someone, there is no card left for them to play. Nothing to withhold, nothing to threaten, nothing to leverage. You become non-negotiable, not through aggression, but through genuine self-sufficiency. Start watching yourself this week. Every time you check your phone hoping for a specific message, that is need. Every time you repeat yourself waiting for someone to validate a point, that is need. Every time you stay somewhere that no longer serves you because leaving feels uncertain, that is need. Name it, and begin deliberately to build enough inside yourself that their approval becomes optional. Comment below. I need nothing to proceed. You are still here. Good. The fragile ones already left. Phase 3. Use silence as a weapon. Most people are terrified of silence. They rush to fill it. They over-explain when a single sentence would do. They respond immediately when a pause would give them everything they need to know. Here is what no one tells you. Silence is one of the most aggressive psychological tools available to you, and it costs absolutely nothing. When someone says something designed to provoke you and you say nothing, their mind begins to work against them. Did it land? Should they push harder? Did they go too far? The silence forces them to fill the gap, and in filling the gap, they reveal themselves. Your anger tells them they found a nerve. Your defense tells them the accusation was close to true. Your immediate response tells them you were waiting. Every reaction is data. Silence is the absence of data, and that absence creates an imbalance they cannot manage. Robert Greene, in The 48 Laws of Power, codifies this as Law 4. Always say less than necessary. The more you say, the more you expose. The less you reveal, the more powerful you appear. Because silence creates mystery, and mystery creates deference. Napoleon Bonaparte was famous for this in negotiations. He would sit across from foreign diplomats, listen to their full position without interruption, and then say nothing. The silence would stretch. The diplomat, unnerved, would begin to backfill, offering concessions, softening positions, revealing priorities they had intended to conceal. Napoleon had said nothing. He had won the room. In practice, the next time someone asks a pointed question designed to pull a reaction, pause longer than feels comfortable. Let the silence breathe. Answer only when you are ready, on your terms, in the direction you choose. In high-stakes negotiations, state your position, then stop talking. The first person to speak after an offer almost always concedes ground. The one who can hold silence holds the room. Train yourself not to rush to fill quiet. Let it exist. Let it work. Your pause is not weakness. It is the moment the other person realizes they cannot read you. And that realization is where your leverage begins. Is the silence making you uncomfortable right now? Good, because the next phase is where they lose the ability to plan for you entirely. Phase 4. Break your patterns. Deny them a map. From the moment people meet you, they begin building a model of you. How you respond to stress, how quickly you reply to messages, how far you can be pushed before you push back, how long it takes you to forgive. They run these experiments without lab coats, without clipboards, casually, constantly, building a map. And once they have the map, they can navigate you. They know what to say to calm you down or fire you up. They know when to push and when to wait. You become, in the most precise sense, manageable. And managed people don't lead, they follow. Behavioral psychology calls this homeostasis, the tendency of systems to stabilize around predictable patterns. When your behavior becomes a fixed pattern, the people around you build their strategies around that stability. Your consistency is their leverage. Cosimo de' Medici, the first great patriarch of the Medici banking empire in 15th century Florence, was the opposite. Rivals could never fully predict his next move. He was generous one moment, cold the next. He built alliances in silence and dissolved them without announcement. He expressed warmth and withdrew it at will, not out of cruelty, but as a deliberate strategy to prevent anyone from locking in a fixed approach to managing him. Florence bent around him for decades because no one could calculate him. As Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "A prince never lacks legitimate reasons to break his promise." Patterns are promises you never officially made, but others are holding you to anyway. Break them deliberately. The instruction is simple. This week, change one consistent behavior. Respond at a different time than usual. React differently to something that normally produces a predictable response from you. The goal is not chaos. It is deliberate variance. You are the same person with the same values, but expressed in ways that cannot be boxed in. Watch how quickly the dynamic around you shifts. Watch people recalibrate. That moment of recalibration, that is your power returning, because what they cannot predict, they cannot control, and what they cannot control, they respect. Phase 5. Withdraw attention to increase your value. Here is the psychological truth no one wants to admit. We do not fully value what is always available. The brain assigns value based on scarcity. What is rare is precious. What is constant fades into the background. When you give your attention freely and generously to everyone, all the time without filter, you are not being kind. You are devaluing yourself. You are communicating at a subconscious level that your attention costs nothing, and people treat free things the way people always treat free things. The moment you reduce your attention, the moment people begin to wonder whether they still have it, something shifts in them. They compensate, they invest more, they reach out, they try harder, not because you asked, because scarcity creates pull. This is basic reward psychology, documented across decades of behavioral research. The brain releases more dopamine in response to unpredictable rewards than consistent ones. Constant availability desensitizes. Intermittent presence activates craving. Machiavelli saw this without the neuroscience. Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. The greatest self-deception is believing that more availability equals more respect. It rarely does. Most people respond to feeling someone pull away by leaning in harder, giving more, becoming more available. This is the exact wrong move. It confirms the imbalance and deepens it. The other person pulls further, because your increased availability just told them their instinct was correct. Step back instead. Reduce your responses. Make yourself slightly less reachable. Not as punishment, not as a game, but as a genuine reassertion of your own worth. Let your presence become something that has to be earned. Your attention is your rarest resource. Your focus, your time, your emotional energy, these are finite. Scatter them freely and they return to you sparsely. Hold them with intention, and the world shows up differently around you. Value increases when access decreases. That is not cruelty. That is reality. Comment below. My presence is valuable. Phase 6. Delay your response. Own the clock speed. Is mistaken for strength. In almost every high-stakes situation, the person who responds first responds weakest. When you react immediately to every message, every provocation, every demand, you are demonstrating emotional compliance. You are proving that you operate on call, that when they push, you move. You have set the expectation that your rhythm will bend around theirs. Delay does something speed cannot. Delay places control of timing in your hands. And timing is not a minor variable. Timing is a form of dominance. Think about negotiations. The first person to name a number is almost always at a disadvantage. Think about arguments. The first person to raise their voice usually loses the room. Think about demands. The person who responds instantly signals that their time is worth less than the person demanding. Robert Greene's 33 Strategies of War addresses this directly. The greatest strategists control the tempo of engagement. They fight on their schedule, not the enemy's. They dictate when the exchange happens,
and that control shapes every element of the outcome. As Machiavelli wrote, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times."
Change your timing with the moment. Fast when speed serves you, slow when slowness gives you the advantage. When someone sends an aggressive message and you respond the next day, calm, precise, without matching their energy, they are suddenly scrambling. They sent heat. You sent precision. They moved on their timeline. You responded on yours. The dynamic shifted without a single dramatic word. In daily practice, when something frustrates you, pause before responding. Walk away if you need to. Let time separate your emotion from your judgment. Respond only with what the situation requires, not what your initial reaction wanted to say. The pause before a powerful response is not hesitation. It is the moment you decide who you are choosing to be in this situation. Delay is not avoidance. It is precision. And precision is the last thing they expect from someone they thought they could rush. Phase 7. Detachment. The architecture of the untouchable. Here is the deepest truth in this entire framework, and the one that makes the other 6 possible. You can try to conceal your emotions, reduce your needs, use silence, break patterns, withdraw attention, delay responses. But if you are still emotionally entangled at the core, if your peace is still rented from someone else's behavior, all of it is theater. All of it collapses the moment pressure gets high enough. True power requires detachment. And detachment is not coldness. It is not indifference. It is not going through the motions while feeling nothing. Detachment is measured involvement. The ability to be fully present in a situation without being swallowed by it. To engage genuinely and powerfully without depending on the outcome. You observe without absorbing. You engage without depending. You withdraw without explaining. When a situation no longer serves you, when a chapter is finished, you exit cleanly, quietly, decisively, without drama, without a speech. Emotional discipline removes all manipulation pathways. When someone cannot make you angry, cannot make you desperate, cannot make you afraid, cannot make you need them, there is no lever left to pull. There is no button. You become, in the truest sense, untouchable. Not absent, not cold. Fully present, fully engaged. Just impossible to hijack. Machiavelli wrote The Prince not from a throne, but from exile. Stripped of his position, tortured by the Medici regime, living in enforced isolation. And from that exile he produced the most influential manual on power in Western history. He had every reason to collapse, to rage, to surrender. Instead, he observed, he synthesized, he wrote. His detachment from his own suffering was the very thing that made him dangerous. Because a man who is not owned by his own pain cannot be controlled through it. This is the paradox Machiavelli understood, and Robert Greene built an entire body of work around. The most powerful person in any room is not the one who feels nothing. It is the one whose peace cannot be taken. Start small. The driver who cuts you off, detach. The friend who cancels at the last minute, detach. The project that fails, detach. Not because these things don't matter, but because your reaction to them should not determine your day. Build the muscle.
Over time, the things that used to shake you will still happen, but they will land differently. They will find no grip. They will pass through you instead of into you. You become present, never accessible, engaged, never trapped, powerful, because nothing can reach the center of you. This path is not comfortable. It does not come with applause or the warmth of a crowd that understands what you are building. Most people will see your stillness and mistake it for distance.
They will see your silence and mistake it for weakness. They will see your detachment and decide you do not care. Let them. The wolf does not explain itself to the sheep. The glacier does not rush for the valley. The man in exile, the man stripped of everything society said should give him power, has one thing left that cannot be confiscated: the architecture of his thinking. Machiavelli had that. In exile, in pain, in obscurity, he changed the intellectual history of the world, not because he had resources, because he had become unreachable. This freedom is cold, but it is the only freedom that is truly yours. Every other kind, the freedom that depends on being liked, approved of, included, can be revoked the moment whoever granted it decides to take it back. The freedom that comes from being unmovable cannot be granted and cannot be taken. It is built, slowly, one response at a time, one silence at a time, one deliberate withdrawal at a time. Until one day, someone tries to use your emotions against you and finds nothing there to use. That day, everything changes. If you've made it here, you are not like most people who clicked on this video. Most left when it got uncomfortable. Most went back to the crowd. You stayed. Subscribe, not because I asked you to. Subscribe because you are done being managed. Because you have decided right now that the version of yourself being built from this point forward is unreachable. Drop your final affirmation in the comments. Prove to yourself and to everyone reading that you are walking out of this video different than you came in. The final law of this entire framework is this: when nothing can move you, nothing can control you. That is the identity you are building, not a cold person, not a distant person, not someone who stops caring about life or people or outcomes. Someone who participates fully and is never, ever owned by any of it. Become the one who observes without absorbing, the one who operates without being controlled. That is your power. Claim it.